Okay. Let's see. Just see if we're on. We are, yeah.
You can unmute her, right?
I think she muted herself on purpose. Hey, everybody, we're going to go live in a couple minutes. We're just waiting for people to join us, and we will be doing our live home buying Zoom-inar. So stay tuned. If you want to jump on Facebook, we'd love to have you. Cool, cool. I'm sharing it to a bunch of our pages.
That's what I just did too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. See, it's a little bit delayed. That's kind of funny. It is funny how it's delayed a couple seconds.
Yeah. I don't think you can watch your Facebook Live while you do it. I suppose it probably trip you up.
Oh my gosh, it totally does. Come on, people, jump on and join us.
You know what? We should have brought wine. What time is it?
Exactly. It's happy hour somewhere.
Well, everywhere lately, I think.
I know, right?
So I know we spoke about some restaurants you were going to. What's your favorite place you've gone to in the last week?
Oh yeah, we could talk about restaurants to give plugs to all of our people.
Yeah.
So the Wrench and Rodent, especially in California, I think, and Philip does as well. Up in Oceanside, Chef David, Chef Jesse Paul, Chef Lauren, and Jessica. And they also own the plot. And then you've got Blade 1936, which is also in Oceanside with Giancarlo. That's fantastic. Costera down at Harbor Island, they're doing a fantastic job of physically distancing. And then where else have we gone? And we went to Piazza 1909 with Chef Stefano, and he too, that place is just perfect. You know, it's the perfect physically distancing thing. They probably didn't have to move a table the way that they originally had it set up, and it's outdoors. But now that the numbers are kind of spiking, I was supposed to go somewhere tonight and I'm not. Somebody's joined us. So hello, it's 3 o'clock, yay. I don't know who has joined us, but we have somebody.
Oh, let's see. We have Michelle.
Hey, Michelle and Ronald, how are you? So we're just gonna wait a couple more seconds before we go live, just in case other people join us.
So you canceled
Michelle
your plans
Ronald,
for today?
pardon me?
You canceled your evening, your going out plans for today? Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
I feel less comfortable doing stuff right now with the numbers, you know?
Yeah.
So hang on, guys. We're gonna give a couple more minutes just to see if anybody else pops on. And this will be repetitive for you, Ronald and Michelle, but also I think helpful. And then after this Zoom, we will resume to go over other items that we discussed earlier today. And we have fabulous Deja with us from Point Mortgage.
Hello.
So I think I'll start the video. Just so we can get rolling.
You muted. I don't think I can hear you, Mary Beth.
Home, my lost escaping home, my music's playing home, all our hearts waiting silently for me, silently for me.
Well, one of the brilliant things you need to remember is you have to remember not to mute yourself. So welcome to everyone to our first time homebuyer Zoom-inar with Philip Fredricksen and Mary Beth Kellee with Coldwell Banker West. And we have the fabulous Deja Correa with Point Mortgage, who is going to share with you tons of wisdom on the lending process. Okay, so again, Ronald and Michelle, we know you've been through this, and it will be a little bit repetitive, but we want to make sure talking to others who may be joining us, most important is to get to know our clients, get to know their needs and wants. And just like Ronald and Michelle, it was immediate after looking at some of the properties that they were highlighting and liking that we were like, know what they like. We totally know what they like. And when we see it, for me, I actually got chills. So getting to know our clients is very important, and also listening to their home needs. Why is agency important, and how does being a fiduciary work? Who pays commission? So first of all, working with a buyer's agent, we do not get a fee from you. We work completely for free. We get compensated only once you find a property, and it's the listing brokerage that compensates the buyer's agent. So agency, Philip Fredricksen, talk about fiduciary.
Well, our fiduciary responsibility is to our clients. Fiduciary is the highest standard of care that there is. As a practicing lawyer, we did not have as high of a standard of care as we do as real estate agents, which I found to be incredible, actually. So what that means is, although we pay attention and we make sure everybody's treated fairly, our duty and our responsibility is to making sure you're taken care of as our client to the best of our ability, and that you get the advantage, if there is one, over us. We do things for your benefit, not our own.
So what does an agent do for you? So here we'll just talk a little bit about what we do. So realtors are different than just an agent, and we are licensed realtors. We are dedicated to finding a home that meets your needs and frees up your time. We are experts. We have done this for a collective. What did we just figure out the other day? Oh, collectively, we've been doing this how many years?
It was like 56 or 57 years. 56
or 57 years. Philip with his law practice and doing real estate law, business and tax, and myself licensed since 1998. There's a lot of knowledge on the team, and we do work as a team. We are objective, informative, and our big goal is to find you the best absolute property available on the market and negotiate for you all the way through the entire process. So benefit from our negotiating. Philip, want to touch on that a little bit?
Well, negotiations is actually the most important thing a realtor does. It's what separates a really good realtor from an average realtor. And I think Mary Beth and I bring some unique skills to that, both from her own experience in investing in property and negotiating deals on her own behalf, but also since, what is that, 18 years, 20
21.
years, 21 years.
But I'm only 29.
Since she's not 8 years old, she's been negotiating deals. But, you know, her own deals as well as for her clients for 21 years. And as a lawyer, both in real estate deals as well as buying and selling of businesses and so forth. That's essentially what I did for a living, with negotiate purchases and sales of property and businesses. So it is a skill set that I think is unique to us compared to many, many other agents out there.
And then also, it's just so many weird languages that we speak in real estate. We use all kinds of abbreviations, and, you know, this word escrow and title, and just all of our job is to make it as easy as possible for you. We've been there, we've done this. Buying and selling property is very emotional. And our job is to really help you have a fun experience through this process, because nothing worse than not having fun. It's typically the biggest purchase of your life, the biggest sale of your life, and it can definitely be emotional, but we keep it as fun as possible and keep you informed and literally hold your hand as much as possible through the process. Okie dokie. Starting your home search, very, very fun. You want to ask yourself, why are you buying? What are your plans for your current home? What's your time frame? Figure out what areas you like, driving neighborhoods. Oftentimes, once you establish your buying power, which we'll speak on a moment, it's really important for us to kind of tell you, okay, these are different neighborhoods. We really want you to go out, take a ride, see what these neighborhoods look like for you, and then we put together a search. We're going to talk about lending. What are the most critical things you're looking for in a realtor? How do you like to communicate? Do you like text? Do you like email? Do you like Zooms? Do you like face-to-face phone calls? During the pandemic, we have a few new ways that we communicate and work with clients based on safety first. Is there anybody involved in the home buying process? Oftentimes today, in fact, we showed a property to a first-time home buyer and the parents came, which is fine. But we always want to know who we're speaking to so we understand how to communicate the best possible way. What is your ideal living situation? Are you looking for a single family home, a townhome, a condo? What's the difference between a townhome and a condo? A condo is single level, a townhome has multiple floors. People don't realize that. What are the specifics? Do you want 2 bedrooms? Do you have to have a garage? Square footage, in my opinion, is something you get to learn, because square footage can really cut you out of a really good floor plan, because you may say, I have to have 1,500 square feet. This 1,300 square foot property you're missing, and it could have the best layout possible and feel really comfortable and big. So it's good to actually see some floor plans and square footage before you completely lock yourself in.
Sometimes that 1,300 square foot lives bigger than a 1,500 square feet. So those are crucial.
Exactly. And then must-haves versus your wants. I've had clients that absolutely demand they have to have a garage, and then we find a property that has no garage and they fall in love with it. And I have to go back and say, remember what your number one thing was, that garage. Show me how you're going to now live without that garage. Because we don't ever want somebody to purchase something that they're not comfortable with, they're not happy with. We want you to be in love with your new home. And communication is key. So keys to smart home buying is getting you pre-approved, which we're going to speak about. Articulate actionable home preferences, helping you to determine your offer, negotiation, facilitating with the lender and the financing process, initiating the property evaluation and inspection, explaining the title process, and preparing you for the close of escrow to get your keys. So let's unmute Deja. We're going to now have Deja take it away. Deja with Point Mortgage, you are fantastic, and you've been working with some of our clients. Great communication skills, both to us as well as our clients, and we really appreciate that. I'm going to mute me and Phil and have you take it away.
Thank you. So my name is Deja Correa, and I'm a loan officer with Point Mortgage. I have been in the industry, about just over 15 years. So since I was 2. Finding the perfect real estate agent and finding the perfect house is probably the most important part of your home. It is the most important part of your home buying, but there's a piece to that that's also very important, and that's getting your financial house in order so that you're ready to make that purchase. And a real estate agent will encourage you, once you've kind of made that introduction and you're getting to know each other and they understand a little bit more about you, hopefully they'll put you together with a lender that's going to work well with you and going to help you qualify for the home that you want to buy. So I'm going to talk a little bit today. I'm going to introduce a couple things. First, I'm going to go over maybe some myths, and whether you are a new homeowner, first-time home buyer, maybe this is your move-up house, maybe you haven't bought a house in several years or gone through the mortgage process. It's changing all of the time, just like everything else in our world. So I'm going to go over some myths. We're going to talk about that. Then I'm going to follow up with talking about it as an investment, the investment that you're making, the generational wealth that you're building for your family, and that a lot of homeowners, and the goal of a lot of homeowners. So the first most obvious myth is, well, I think the first one is that you need to get everything in order before you meet with me. And nothing can be further from the truth. I am your partner, and I am going to help you qualify for the home that you want. And so I always start with, what are you looking to buy? And I discuss this with, Mary Beth when she's bringing a client together. What are they looking to buy? What do they need to qualify for? And often the response, especially first-time home buyers, is, well, what do I qualify for? But it's my job to help you into the home you want, because as Mary Beth said earlier, we want you to be happy at the end of the day. So I always start with that, because there's a lot of different factors that influence what type of loan and what type of structure you have. So knowing where you want to end up is a good place for us to start. One of the other biggest myths is that you need a 20% down payment to purchase a home, and nothing can be further from the truth. In fact, we have home buying options and mortgage options that require no money down. We have options that will even help cover closing costs as well as the down payment. Another myth, so I don't want you to wait until you save up for that 20% down. You could miss out on the house that's really perfect for you by waiting. You should talk to me first and find out what options you are, or what options you have, and then as your financial picture changes, or maybe you save up more down payment if you haven't found that perfect house, we make some of those adjustments and help you qualify for the house that you want. Perfect credit, that's another myth. A lot of people think they need to do credit repair before they see me. Maybe they think they need to pay down lines of credit, and sometimes you do. Sometimes that is going to either help you qualify for a better rate or the home that you want, or even necessary. But I'm the one that's going to tell you that, because as I mentioned earlier, my job is to help you qualify for the home you want. Excuse me a moment. I'm in Point Loma, so there's a plane above me. Another myth is you don't want to talk to a loan officer or a real estate agent too soon. A lot of buyers think, well, I don't think I'm going to be ready for 6 months. And again, I could say nothing is further from the truth. The sooner you start the process, the more prepared you're going to be when you get to the point where you're writing offers in escrow and closing escrow. Another myth that's really important and pretty pressing right now is student loan debt. And I know most student loan debt that I'm seeing right now has been shoved into automatic forbearance. There are loan programs that allow you to qualify with student loan debt. There are loan programs that allow us to use income-based repayment on student loan debt rather than the big lump sum. We really look at, your monthly payment. So if there's a way for us to structure you into your home, regardless of the debt load that you have, I'm going to help find that for you. I want to end this portion of the myths with a pre-approval versus a pre-qualification. So a pre-qualification happens when a borrower or buyer calls maybe a local bank or a loan officer that they don't know on the phone, and they give them their financial information, where they think they are. This is what I think my income is. This is what I think my debt is. And based on that conversation, the lender says, okay, here's your pre-qualification for the home that you want. You can run into trouble down the road if you stick with that. The first issue can be if you're not fully pre-approved, which requires documentation and a skilled lender to pretty much put your loan together. If you're not fully pre-approved, good luck getting an offer accepted, because it is a very competitive market. And so that listing agent and that seller are going to want to know that your mortgage is going to close. In addition to that, you can run into issues because sometimes, and this is my famous line, reality and what underwriting sees are two totally different things. And so you want a loan officer that can mesh reality with underwriting and help you understand why little nuances in your financial picture might warrant a different approach. So those are some of the myths. We can go on to the next one. So we're going to talk about buying power, right? So back to that initial conversation, you know, what do I qualify for? Well, you could work right next to someone, have the same job and the same income, but there are a lot of facets in your life that are going to be very different. So every one of my clients has a very different financial picture than the person next to them. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details on this, but I will tell you, the more information you share with your loan officer, the more accurate your approval is going to be, and the more in touch you're going to be with the type of loan and loan options that are available for you. So some of the things that we will look at are taxes. We will look at W-2s, pay stubs, bank statements, credit history. There are a lot of different things that can come off of that. Sometimes we need more information once we see some of these, because your financial picture is much different than the person sitting right next to you. So it is very important that you marry with your loan officer early and work through a lot of this documentation up front. And I promise you, at least for me, I won't ask for any more paperwork than I have to have. So we'll go on to the next one. I want to talk a little bit about, it's fun to go shopping, and it's an exciting thing, and your home is your castle, and it's just such a wonderful experience. It can be stressful because it's a big purchase, especially if you haven't gone through it. It's also a new process. But I want to talk about real estate a little bit as an investment. So, you know, people can build and have built generational wealth for you, for your children. That's often the goal when you're making a real estate purchase. Well, the first goal is, I love this house and I see my family here and I'm going to make memories here. I have to say that is most important. But the plus side is when you are investing in real estate, you're investing in your future and the future of your children. So I want to talk a little bit about appreciation in San Diego County. I'm going to go through just a couple little numbers. We're not going to go into details, but I want to tell you what I popped up here. So I use the median home price in Golden Hill. I'm particularly fond of Golden Hill. It's a great part of town. It's close to downtown, and it's got a lot of opportunity, I think, for first-time home buyer price points. So that median housing area is about $533,000 for, you know, the median price. Between, there's some multifamily units, right? Two to 4 unit properties, and then there's some condos as well. So that's kind of where that median mark hit. So I looked at appreciation, and I used the forecast appreciation and historical appreciation. San Diego County is forecasted to appreciate in 7% year over year over year. Now, of course, nobody has a crystal ball, but based on the historic trend and based on supply, housing supply, and foreseeable housing supply, we're really looking anywhere from, I would say, 4 to 7 is pretty reasonable. So if you look at the forecast, it's about a 7% appreciation, and that's the blue bar graphs that you see there. And the historical is the purple, and it shows you the home appreciation and your return on investment below there with 3.5% down. I did this as a first-time home buyer. I used an FHA loan program for these slides as well. So this would be an FHA buyer purchasing in the Golden Hill area. And you can see that the investment that you're making today, oh, pardon me, is excited. My computer's like, yes, it's an investment. The investment you're making today has a potential for a great upside and appreciation tomorrow. We'll go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is buying versus renting. And I want to start this slide by saying something that I think is really important. Some people feel that there's some comfort and maybe feeling like you could be a little bit more transient without being tied down to a mortgage, right? Like you can ebb and flow and move properties, but you are always going to be paying for where you are going to be living. And the bummer is if you don't own your property, you're paying a mortgage. You're just not paying your own mortgage. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what renting versus buying looks like for our Golden Hill property. So we're looking again at 3.5% down. The rent market is on the left here. That's the blue bars that you see, and the buying is the blue bars, and the purple is the rent. So you can see we did a 5-year analysis that we're really starting to see rental income is going to be going up, and we've seen it in San Diego County going up around 5% or greater. National average, I think, is 3.5%, but we're really trending around 5%. The nice thing about a mortgage is that is a fixed payment. So as we start to see inflation and we start to see pressure and rents rise, you're going to have this payment that's going to be there for the foreseeable future. And that is a wonderful way to build equity and also stability as you start to get older and start planning for retirement. And we'll go on to the next slide and talk about the net gain. So this is what you're waiting for. This is the payoff that you want. You're building equity. And the reason why your landlord is charging you rent and paying a mortgage isn't necessarily just because they're making the money on your rent. What they're doing is appreciating in the property, and their investment is going to pay off for them in the future. So if you look at this, and this is again our 5-year comparison on that particular home with the parameters that we discussed before, at the end of 5 years, there's a net gain, and that includes taxes, the tax deductibility of things factored into there, a net gain of $162,000. This is important because circling back to maybe I should wait to buy. Well, if you wait to buy till you save up 20% or you think you might be ready, you can look at each one of these bar graphs is by the amount that your house is going to increase before you can qualify. So you will be chasing that possibly for quite a bit. It's better to know where you are and decide if you can find the house that you like from that point so that you can begin to develop wealth. Maybe a first-time home buyer is in a condo. In 3 years, you're in a small single family detached. And in 4 years, you're on acreage in Poway. So let's go on to the next slide. All right, so how do we get there? How do we get where we start appreciating and we start building wealth in our home? Well, I want to just kind of talk about some mortgage do's and don'ts because these are important now and during the mortgage process. So the first thing I want to take an opportunity to just kind of talk about is making sure that you're not moving a lot of money around. I think that could be sometimes the biggest challenge when you're in escrow and you're qualifying for a home. You need to talk with your loan officer very specifically about funds and funds movements. Making sure you make all your payments on time. If you don't have your loan set up on maybe an auto pay when you're getting ready to buy a house, you might consider doing that. It would sure be an unfortunate time to miss a credit card payment right before you're going to buy a house. Number one, because you want the benefit of the FICO score and the interest rate that you deserve, but the other reason is you don't want a lender to see that you don't have respect for credit. That being said, credit is temporary. So if there's a late payment in your past, even in your recent past, it is not necessarily going to prevent you from buying a house. You still should come and talk to me. But during this process and as you prepare, it's really important to make sure all of your payments happen on time. Now, lenders are not here to strap your financial life. They're not here to keep you in a specific job. They're not here to tether your funds. But what we are here for is to help guide you and to tell you what some of the decisions you make today, how they're going to affect your ability to qualify for a mortgage tomorrow. So, one of the things, changing jobs, that could be detrimental. You need to talk to a loan officer. I'm going to change a job. Okay, well, this is how that affects your qualification. Buying a new car, things like that. So you should always talk to your loan officer ahead of time. That is another reason why it's really good to have that relationship as early as possible. Some don'ts: don't take out any new loans. We kind of talked about that. Don't apply for any new credit. So I know you're going to be excited, and everybody is. Buying a house is wonderful. And one of the things, my favorite thing, is to fantasize about how I'm going to decorate my house or what appliances I'm going to get. And so invariably I'll get the question, well, I want to open this credit card, and hopefully you're calling me from the line in Home Depot. I want to get this credit card because it's no interest for 18 months. And you should really have those conversations because it may or may not affect your ability to close on a home. And you don't want to end up with a washer and dryer that's not going in the home that you really want. Don't pay anything off. People are surprised by that. I tell them all the time when I get them on the phone, they say, I'm going to pay this off and this off. Wait. Don't pay those things off. You want to be using your credit as well. That helps your FICO score. Don't change banks. As we discussed earlier, some of the financing can be a little bit tricky. You want your lender to watch where your money's going, and changing banks can sometimes be problematic. That being said, a good loan officer will be able to navigate through any financial change that may come your way. So make sure that you align yourself and that you share your information with someone that's going to be your partner through your home buying process, and not just your partner, but partner for your real estate agent, like Mary Beth and Philip.
Us so we can keep on talking about the loan process, interjecting here and there. Philip and I are here to talk about, once you have established your buying power and worked with your lender and followed all the guidelines and communicated, then it's time for us to start really working through your home preferences. You know, all those things that we talked about a few minutes ago, things that are really important. For example, we have several clients right now that gas stoves are critical. They have to have a gas stove. And when we're looking at photos of property online, because we're doing so many virtual touring versus actually physically walking into property, those are things that, you know, can be a deal breaker as far as the home you want to purchase. We are showing homes, but we are doing it completely safely. Our company, Coldwell Banker West, has done a phenomenal job following the OSHA rules and CDC rules. Typically, we prefer to first go virtual and walk you through the property. It's kind of cool because they have 3D, most realtors hopefully have 3D imagery on their listings, as well as video and lots of photos. But when it is time to meet, we bring all of our PPEs, all of our safety equipment, and make sure that we're not touching anything, wearing our mask, maintaining physical distance, et cetera, et cetera. So real estate, believe it or not, during a pandemic has been quite busy. There's so little inventory and so many fabulous, wonderful, ready to go buyers. So once we find the property for you, Philip, this is where we put the pedal to the metal, right?
Yes. So basically, when we're putting together your offer, our job is not trying to sell you the property. Our job is to sell you to the seller. So if we're helping you buy a home, we're creating personal letters. We want you to write a letter about why you love the home, something personal about you, to make a personal connection as opposed to just being a name on a paper. We also want to work with you to help you determine the value of the home. By the time we're writing an offer, you're going to have good feeling for what that home is actually worth. We don't want you to overpay, but at the same time, in a market where you know, it's pretty frothy like it is now, we've got to really go in there with the right price in order to get that home. And ultimately, that's your decision. We're just going to help you get there. So the terms and everything, we want to make those terms as amazing as possible, that everything the seller wants, we try to provide them, like who's going to be the escrow, who's going to be the title officers, how long do they need in an escrow before they can move out. We try to meet those terms as much as we can. So really all that's left is the price. And if they love us because of everything else, sometimes they give us a little better arrangement on the price. And we've many times gotten homes where we were not the highest offer, and yet we still got the home for our client. So that's huge. And it's all based on how we sell you to that seller.
Yep. I can think of two right off the top of my head, Shannon and PT and Lori.
Yep.
And all of them were multiple offers, 11 and 12 offers. Several of them were all cash, but we were able to get the property for our buyers because of how we communicated with the listing agent and how we crafted the whole process. So as we said, it's not always about the price. Okay. These are terms for real estate. And as we said, there's so many new words that come up. These are things that we'll talk about, you know, face-to-face or on a private Zoom versus, you know, in something like a little Zoom webinar that we're doing.
And as needed.
And as needed, yeah. I always like this chart because the buyer is the turquoise button, the seller is the blue button, and it's obvious that a buyer wants to buy and a seller wants to sell. And we're in the middle and we're part of the team. We work directly for our buyer. We do not work for the seller, but we also have many other aspects of the process that we have to manage. Inspections and appraisals and making sure the lender is communicating with us and knowing what the timeframes are, et cetera. So there's a lot of things that go into the buying process. And I always like to say we're ducks swimming on the top of the surface. We look very, very calm and smooth. And underneath we're pedaling and we're making sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's and keeping you protected through the process.
We worry about those details so you don't have to.
Exactly. Again, here's a new word, escrow. What is escrow? It's a neutral third party, period. They are holding the money in a trust account, and that money is used for your purchase and down payment. So they're nothing more than a neutral third party. But in the state of California, we do not use attorneys. We use what is called an escrow officer. So it's a little bit different if you're moving here from a different state. I know for me, I moved from Boston, and we dealt with, in New England, we dealt with attorneys. So in inspection, we make sure that your inspector, does everything to test health and safety issues in the property. They test all the different appliances. They put together a beautiful report with photos. And right now, during COVID, we have a new procedure where that has to be conducted via a Zoom or a FaceTime, as we're not technically supposed to be in the property while the inspection is going on. And then if there's other things, if you're buying a property and you want the foundation to be inspected, or if you're buying a new construction, we often recommend, believe it or not, that you have the drains out to the street snaked, because a lot of times new construction, as well as very old properties, can have some issues with the plumbing. So that's review condition of the property, all the disclosures that the seller gives us. And then buyer is always protected by several different contingencies. So.
Sure. Typically, inspection contingencies, once you enter into escrow, you have 17 days to do all your inspections and work out any repairs that you may want to have. In the state of California, homes are sold as is. That being said, you get a chance to have a professional who knows what they're doing inspect the home, and they'll go through that detail like Mary Beth just talked about. And from that, the buyer has a right to ask the seller to repair anything they want, or to give them a credit towards closing costs and things to cover the cost of you fixing some of those things. Now, because it's sold as is, the seller doesn't have to give you any of those. And if they choose not to, you have the right at that point to walk away from the transaction and say, nope, then I don't want to buy it. The seller may choose to do some and not choose to do others. It's a negotiating process. Again, this comes back to working with your agent, and an agent that knows how to negotiate these things, because typically we can come to terms and find something that's manageable for both parties and move forward. It's the rare circumstance when we can't work that out, but it does happen. But the only time that's going to happen is if you just get cold feet because of things that are going on with that property that you don't want to have to deal with. So that's one of your contingencies. That's usually 17 days. It can change based on negotiations. Then you have your financing and appraisal contingencies. The appraisal is usually 17 days also. The bank orders that appraisal. We don't get to pick. The bank doesn't get to pick. It comes from a neutral ground. They come and inspect the property and appraise the property. If it doesn't appraise, you again have a chance to go back to the seller and talk to them about, well, look, because they're only going to loan based on the appraised value of that home, not on the purchase price. So if it comes out lower, then you have to go back and try to negotiate with the seller to see if they're willing to come down on their price a little bit. Maybe you kick in a little extra money. Again, it's negotiable. Neither party has to accept it as the way it is, so that's
Maybe
another.
your lender helps too.
What's that?
Sometimes your lender can help too.
Absolutely. And then the last one is the financing, and that's usually 21 days. And then that's just based on whether you're approved or not. That's kind of outside of our control. That's in the control of the lender. And if you're approved, you're good. If you're not, then you have the right to get out of the transaction.
And then also when you're purchasing a property and you're married, there's different ways that you can take title on the property. So that's, again, something that directly we would talk about. And there we are. It's purchasing the home and closing that weird word escrow. and obtaining your keys for the property, and now you're living there. So that's home buying 101. There's a lot more to it, and I think the more you talk about it with your realtor and your escrow officer over and over, there's never a question that we would not want you to ask via text, via email, via Zoom, whatever communication. We can't stress enough how important it is. The last thing we would ever want is our client to feel unsure about something or uncomfortable about something. And that's why right after this Zoom, we're going to hop on a Zoom with first-time home buyers and help them through some questions. So Deja, thank you so much for being on today. And like I said, this is just kind of an overview of the home buying process, but homes are being sold, homes are being purchased. Safety is our #1 concern with our clients, and we're doing a fantastic job of doing virtual open houses, virtual buyer tours, really making sure our clients have seen as much media on the property as possible, Google image, drive the neighborhood before we go and look at property, just so they know right away that this is something that fits for them.
And keep in mind, this is the perfect time for buying a home because we have historic low interest rates, which gives you far more buying power. But also, as competitive as it is, it's not nearly as competitive as it's going to be closer to the end of the year. So you're not competing against a lot of other buyers, or as many now as you will be then. So it gives you a better opportunity to get the home of your dreams.
Exactly. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to make everyone dizzy. I just wanted to.
So once you reach out to your fabulous real estate dynamic duo here, and they get to know you, hopefully we'll have a chance to connect, but my information is on here as well. So if there are any questions about your particular financial picture, please give me a call. I'd be happy to help you understand the mortgage process as it pertains to you.
And Deja, I was scrolling through to get to that screen.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, with your photo and all your information on it. Absolutely. So again, when we work with our clients, it's definitely a great team of people that we surround ourselves with and help to make that the best experience possible. So again, thank you, everybody, and we will.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Now I need to figure out how to leave the meeting. Okay, end.